doomed.
All right. Good evening. I was going to go live with this, but I decided I didn't want to have to mess with that right now, getting everything set up. So I just decided I would record this. And I had a big, long thing that I was actually going to do for my first cast. I had like 3 pages of stuff set up. Typed up rather, that I was going to go through and explain why I was doing this, why I wanted to do this, but I decided that I'm not even going to worry about it. And I don't really have a plan for tonight. Mostly, I'm just going to look through things, look through the news, look through social media, and kind of talk about them. See if there's anything that anything interesting out there that I can talk about. I don't know if I can shed any light on them, but maybe we can filter them through a sane worldview. This is the Metallic Underground. This is this is just one of a myriad of little podcasts and webcasts and everything popping up that cares about what's really going on. Like I've said before, we are in a reality war. We've moved past an info war or a worldview war. We are now in a reality war, where the news no longer tells you what's going on and lets you think what you want to think about it, but it tells you what to think and gaslights you if you don't believe them. So we're really just going to... So what I'm just going to do right now is go through social media and some of the news agencies and see if there's anything worth talking about that hasn't been just done to death with all the corporate media outlets and even some of the little guys. I don't know. What's new? What's going on? Scrolling through Facebook here. Mostly just memes. I spend way too much time on Facebook. In fact, I've started dialing back on actually today was the first day I've really started kind of dialing back on my social media usage. I got on this morning and checked my memories and signed out. Spent the entire day until after dinner, and actually after playing some Dungeons and Dragons with the kids, before I even signed back in. I don't think I missed much today on the Facebook world. I haven't watched so SpaceX launched, I guess, Starship 10 yesterday. I guess it was yesterday. I love these stars. I love kind of watching these. This is super cool. I guess it actually landed, then exploded. I haven't watched any of the videos yet. But I'm looking here at some of the pictures, and the wreckage is definitely something cool. I mean, they're prototypes, they're tests. Blowing up is what they're supposed to do. Yeah, so Elon's doing some really... I like what Elon's doing with SpaceX, right? I just wish, and I don't know if it's... I don't even know what to call it, but, I sort of wish we had a Christian Elon Musk. I mean, Elon's a cool dude. Like, I've listened to the 2 or 3 times he's been on Joe Rogan, and he's really an interesting guy. His mind works differently than most of ours. Of course, when you're worth several $1 billion, you can afford for your mind to work differently, or maybe that's why he has several $billion is because his mind does work differently. Um, I don't think Elon's a time traveler. I don't think he's an alien. I don't think he's going to save humanity. But, you know, he's definitely outside of the boundaries of what most people want to, outside of the box of what the corporations and the governments would want us to be. Or where the governments and corporations would want us to be, and that's a good thing, man. Where the governments and corporations want us to be, that's man. We need to be thinking outside of that, for innovation and art and all sorts, art and business, and we need to think outside of that box as much as we can. In that aspect, I'd say Elon's, definitely a role model in that aspect. We need to, and of course, most of us can't do what he's doing. I don't even know his story. I don't know how he got to where he was, other than he's just like crazy and started asking people money to do stuff. Or I don't know. I don't know how he ended up in his position, but the way he thinking outside the box, the electric cars, the truck, the spaceships that land, like we've been putting spaceships in the air for since the 60s. So for 60 years we've been putting spaceships in the air, and nobody thought to make one land. Or we went to the moon. I do believe we went to the moon. I know there's a lot of people disputing that we went to the moon, or at least that we went to the moon the first time. But you sort of, and we went to the moon on the power of a pocket calculator, or one of those big T something, those big scientific calculators you had in high school, or at least I had in high school. The moon rockets, they didn't have much more computing power than that did. We all carry around the entirety of human knowledge in our pockets. And you're telling me that in 60 years he was the first one to even try to make rockets that land, that you could, the space shuttle, but we're not talking about like a glider. These are rockets. These are the booster engines that, for all intents and purposes, just come back and land. Like, did we not think about that? Or did the technology not exist? Or is it just that government mindset that impedes innovation? That's probably it. Elon's done more with the space exploration, with space travel in the handful of years that he's been doing it, than in the 50 years prior or whatever. It's just crazy what happens when the private sector gets to do stuff versus when the government gets to do stuff. If the government was in charge of the internet, we would still, there probably wouldn't be any fiber to the home. We'd all be cheering for our 5 meg ADSL circuits, right? Like, ooh, I only had to wait 12 minutes for Netflix to load, right? So, definitely, the mindset that's coming, that's being perpetuated now is this public-private relationship between governments and the big corporations. What do we think that's going to do to innovation? The iPhone, just look at the iPhone. Do we think we would have 4K iPhone X 11s or whatever if the government was in charge of it after only a decade. I'm trying to remember when the iPhone came out. It's been a decade or less. Do you think we could have really went from what the iPhone was, or even further back? If the government was involved, we'd still all be using razors, or flip phones, or whatever else there was at the time. Instead, due to private innovations, I essentially have access to the entirety of human knowledge in my pocket, and it's a combination video game machine, phone, movie maker, music, video games, music, all sorts of things. I can have Zoom meetings on my phone, right? Like this is Jetson stuff. This is all the type of stuff us 80 kids we're looking at Inspector Gadget going, holy crap, that's awesome, and now I can do it, right? It maybe not be, we've got smartwatches. I don't think I can do a Zoom meeting on my smartwatch yet, though that would be cool. But in a 3x6 little device that's less than a pound, I can have a Zoom meeting with a dozen of my friends, wirelessly. Like, it's not even plugged into the wall. It's amazing, really, when we stop to think about it. And the government has done nothing but try to regulate it. It's awesome. Now the government wants to get their hands in it even more than they already have. That's going to be interesting. Already, Amazon, Google, Facebook, tracking, all that stuff. That's not going to get any better if we start getting the government involved in it, right? So, that's a thing. What else is going on Facebook? I gotta figure out how to do a pause button on this. I gotta work on this OBS Studio more. I'm still trying to figure out how to use all this stuff. You'd think there'd be a pause button. Maybe there is. Maybe I just don't know what I'm doing here. But let's see, what else can I find here on social media or the news that might be worth talking about. Okay. Man, it seems to be a fairly quiet news night. Let's see, what does Reddit have for us? So if you've heard about the GameStop thing on Reddit, the Wall Street bets, and those Wall Street nerds getting together and pumping up the GameStop stock. Some of these guys have made just a ton of money, just like a ridiculous amount of money. Like I'm scrolling through Reddit here, and there's this dude posting a screenshot from whichever app he's using. I'm not sure which one it is. The dude just made more money pumping up GameStop than I will make in the next 10 years. Like, this has just been absolutely ridiculous on a level that's really unprecedented. As much as they've tried to stop this, it's still a thing. This Reddit Wall Street bets going into GameStop and stopping the short or reversing the short, or however you want to put it. I'm not even sure what the terminology is. Just is just ridiculous. Like, and I mean, you're not hearing about it now. Old news, all sorts of other things are happening, but it's still going. Right now the stock I think is, I think after hours trading, I think it's $130 a share, which is silly considering, a couple months ago it was like $10 a share. And now you guys who have pumped, they took their stimulus checks or whatever, and they pumped a few $100s into this stock that was just dying. I mean, GameStop is dying, or at least it was. And now these guys are making thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, GameStop right now is $128.50 in after hours trading. I own like $20 of GameStop stock because I bought it. I sort of figured this out, sort of about this when it really peaked at like $340 a stock. Let's see, I own $8 worth of GameStop stock because I put in like a pittance. I put in like 30. I put in like $30 or something when it was $300. I figured, you know what? I didn't have any, didn't have a whole lot of money at the time to be just throwing around. So I think I put in like $30 when it was at like 300 or like 370 or something. And I figured, maybe because at the time they didn't know when it was going to keep going up, or how far it was going to go, because it seemed like the sky was the limit. And shortly after I bought in my little pittance, then that's when Robinhood and all those other places started pulling all their shenanigans and blocking the trades. You could sell, but you couldn't buy. And it was just, it was ridiculous. Like, the fact that, Robinhood, the irony of Robinhood was, giving access to the little guy. Basically it was like giving access to the little guy to be able to, make some stocks. And it turns out it's, they're just as beholden to the powers that be as everybody else. It's all just marketing, so much of it's all just marketing. But, that whole wailing and gnashing of teeth when the hedge fund guys were just losing their minds because they had dumped a whole bunch of money looking to short in this stock, and when it started going up, they lost millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, I think it was several $1 billion was lost when GameStop started, nosing towards $400 a share or so. And it was just amazing. Amazing to kind of sit and watch, because it just really was. So I mean, and what does that what does that mean, right? Like, they're making it easier to get into this stuff, or at least they said they were trying. These places said they were trying to make it easier to get into stuff. I'm sure knowing full well that, or at least thinking full well that most people wouldn't do a whole lot with it. You'd have your guys buying a few stocks here and there, making a few bucks here and there, but mostly just pouring cash into the machine. Somehow somebody was making money. Somehow somebody's making money off of Robinhood, like, because I can put $20 in, and then just go out and buy $20 of stock. So there's no fees, or anything like that. So, it's got to, they've got this set up to where somebody's making money on this. Um, and I don't know what it is, and I don't understand all the mechanics of the stock market. In fact, um, I'm pretty uneducated as far as how the stock market works most of the time. But it was just interesting to watch how the establishment, bankers and stuff, really, um, really don't want, you know, they really don't want you buying stock. They know if it's nice for a company to give stock options and stuff like that, but they don't really want you making um, any money off of it, right? They've got their um, they've got the system set up to where a handful of people from it really really profit from it, and then everybody and then everybody else can get some crumbs um, as long as they can keep making their money. And buying into the system for most people just helps the other people, the establishment make money. um, unless you're really in it, um, with millions of dollars, then then it's not for you. It's not for you, or at least they don't want it to be for you. Because it's rigged. It's all rigged, of course. Um, let's see. Enough of talking about that. Something I really don't know anything about, but was definitely interesting to watch. And still interesting to watch. I'm still watching it on Reddit. I even thought about they're talking about trying to get it to jump up again, or seeing how they can get it jump up again. I thought about tossing a 50 at it or something. I don't know if I will or not, but I figure I should probably buy at least one entire stock. If it goes up, it hits $300 or $400 again, we can cash out, whatever. Um, let's see. What else is going on? Uh, do, 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 do. So this is a new thing that I hadn't heard of or thought about as far as on kind of the conspiracy side. All these guys who um, all these senators who keep getting eye injuries. Like, I've you see it once in a while, or you don't really think about it. But apparently, if you look back, um, um, and see that there's been several senators who've gotten injured eye injuries. Um, who else? Who's this new one? Harry Reid, um, Mitt Romney. Some of these really big names have showed up in you know showed up to the session with like these um, you know injured right eye. Like Harry Reid, like this article here, Harry Reid says he's now sightless in his um, right eye, and it's attributed to a brutal exercise injury. And this was from a few years ago. There was one that just happened, and I can't remember who it was. Um, but it's interesting that they're actually um, developing conspiracy theories around what does this mean. Um, like, does this mean anything? It's just interesting to see how some of these conspiracies sort of start accumulating. Um, and all of them are, that was a weird one. I remember the Harry Reid one. He said, like, an exercise band broke or something and hit him in the face. Um, that's totally plausible. Sure, I guess. I don't know. Um, you know, um, some interesting theories here. Occult rituals. Um, this is some sort of um, a result of some sort of occult ritual or um, illicit sexual practices or something. Um, my favorite one I saw yesterday was that this was the result of, I guess it would essentially be an occult ritual, um, interacting with demons who are um, attacking um, attacking the eyes. Um, it was actually something I'd never heard of. I guess it was from a book from a while back. I think they called them the Vril, or something that um, interacted or attacked going through um, um, go through one of the eyes. Um, yeah, this Vril Society. I don't know what this is. I've actually never heard of this, and I've heard of a lot of stuff in this the whole conspiracy realm, but I've never actually heard of the Vril Society. Uh, let's see, what is the okay Bing? I'm not sure why my Google is set to Bing. Um, so the Vril Society was a World War II era secret group of women that claimed to keep their hair long in order to act as an antenna to telepathically channel communication with other races. They believe they had come from, and this is some horror website or something. I'm not sure. Society believed to have come from the ancient Aryan race and had beliefs that the New World Order was unavoidable. Um, the Vril Society, along with the alien race, the Vril, Vril, Vler, Vrillerans, helped the Nazi Party in successfully developing the flying saucer. It's that I had heard of, but not the aliens helping the Nazi Party develop a flying saucer. See, broke away. That doesn't explain an eye thing, though. Let's see. Vril Society. Let's Google this. Vril Society eye. Let's Google. So this website is saying that it's part of. Okay, here we go. Vril lizards. The Vril lizards injected its quill proboscis into the human eye, where the lizard parasite takes over the host of the human brain. Interesting. Demon possession. Vril parasite consciousness is full control, memory. Right. So okay. So that's interesting. The theory that all these senators that have shown up with black eyes have been demon possessed effectively. I mean, interesting. Physically, some sort of corporeal demon parasite being implanted into their brain through their left eye. I mean, I've talked about this before on my personal page. The about whether or not, you know, when I had talked about aliens and UFOs, and just because something's spiritual, I mean, I don't think that necessarily means that it's not physical, right? Like we see in Genesis when the three angels um, come down and speak with Abraham. Um, he makes them bread, and if I remember right, I believe they even eat. Um, you know, so there's um, definitely some sort of physicalness, or at least there can be some sort of corporealness um, to the angelic beings, or at least there can be. Um, but and I've talked about how um, you know the UAP sightings or the UFO sightings. Um, what if we're not seeing a craft, or what if we are seeing a craft and it's and it's and it is spiritual, that it is some sort of demonic or angelic sighting, some sort of and what we're seeing is um, we're not seeing like a craft per se. That what we're actually seeing is the thing. Like we are seeing, when we see when there's a when there's a triangle craft, or where there's the tic tac, we're not looking at a craft that's being piloted by possibly not piloted by some angel, some being. But what if it is the being itself? We are seeing some sort of manifestation in the corporeal or in the physical, like angels did throughout the Old Testament. That way, or even like, if you watch sci-fi, if you've seen, Babylon 5, or Farscape, you've got the biological technology where, the ship's and a being, but there are also other beings inside of it. Like if you had an alien encounter and the ships come down, you're seeing, angelic or demonic conception, right? You've got aliens or demons inside of another alien or demon. Of course, the question that was asked at one time to me when I was talking about this is why? Why would angels or demons need a craft? Even if it is, even if it's not like, an entity itself, like the craft isn't necessarily an angel or a demon. It's the craft is, maybe it's some sort of demonic technology. So the question was, why do angels or demons need spaceships? Well, why did I think it was in why did angels need horses and swords in the Old Testament, right? In the I think it's, I forget which book it is, but there's a story. I think it's the Assyrians have surrounded the city, and I think a prophet was talking to somebody else, and the guy was like, how are we going to beat them? And the prophet was like, there are more with us, and more with us than there are with them. And the guy's eyes are open, and he sees, myriads of angelic, angels on horses, right? Like, so, why would an angel need an angelic technology spacecraft, or why would a demon need demonic technological spacecraft, right? But like, why would angels need horses or swords, right? Like, questions I don't have answers to. Not really. Like why, we see in, Sodom and Gomorrah, the angels call down fire from heaven, you know, why need swords? You know, why would they need swords? So I think there's also a scene in Ezekiel where Ezekiel sees like an angel of, I think it's an angel of death. It's been a long time since I read Ezekiel, going through and killing those who had a mark, or didn't have a mark. I don't remember. So the question is, but I don't know. That's an interesting thing. But that goes back to demon possession through some sort of physically or physically manifested demon implanted into these people's eyes. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. It's definitely a theory. I don't know if it's a good theory, but it's definitely a theory. Let's see what else. Let's see what else. Anything interesting here? Okay, well, that's all I'm seeing on Reddit. Let's see if there's any real news. I guess I don't know how much of it's real, but let's see. Okay, the Associated Press website. Okay, let's see if there's anything worth looking at here. This is not the right website. That's the right website. Okay. I don't know. That's not the website I was looking at earlier. Anyway, let's jump over to InfoWars. Alright, good old Alex Jones. Anything interesting on Alex Jones's website? We are facing the... Oh, David Icke. Oh my gosh, David Icke. This guy is... I don't know. I'm not going to listen to that. That's a video. I don't want to listen to David Icke. David Icke is probably certifiable. Alright. Oh, this is good. A little bit pushback on this this whole Dr. Seuss thing. The estate of Dr. Seuss stopping the publishing of, I don't know, like 6 or 7 of his books. And honestly, I don't know, maybe my Dr. Seuss knowledge isn't what it should be, but I don't think I had ever actually read any of the Dr. Seuss books that they are stopping and that eBay is banning, even though you can still buy all sorts of other crap, like like everybody likes to mention Mein Kampf and the stuff from Louis Farrakhan, which, right, they don't care, but Dr. Seuss is bad juju, right? like where are we at? Where are we at that we're banning children's books from decades ago with impunity? We're banning these books with impunity, or at least no, they're not. They're not being banned, but they're being self-banned. Like the estate is banning itself. It's canceling itself, or at least it's canceling itself partly. Like where do we have to go at to do that with children's books? I mean, okay, so dated depictions of some of these races and cultures. Okay, they're dated depictions. We get it, but Amazon's fully, like, pushing the baby white guilt books. Like, it's a clown show out there, people. It is an absolute clown show out there, and we know this. And oh, and like, I don't even know what to say most of the time. I think I've just become numb looking at all this stuff. It's insanity has become the normal. Um, Insanity has become, or at least they're trying to make insanity the norm. Insanity is not the norm. Insanity is still insanity. Um, and self-banning Dr. Seuss books is insanity. Like, you know, eBay's even banning the sell. Like I said, eBay's banning the sales of them. But at least this article talking about the New York Public Library is refusing to cave to the woke mob. Good for them. I'm just, this verse just came to my head. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Right? We've got to start resisting some of this stuff, right? Like, and these guys are going to eat themselves anyway. The whole woke culture is going to eat itself. Just watch. And of course, when it eats itself, it's going to morph into something else and try again. And then it's going to eat itself again and try again. Until, eventually Jesus has them all broken under his rod of iron and they're a footnote in the dustbin of history. New York. The latest to do is the New York Public Library, which serves Manhattan, with spokeswoman Angela Montefens telling media, as with all public libraries, the New York Public Library does not censor books. Right, like the meme said. Throughout history, have there been any cultures that have banned or burned books that have turned out to be the good guys? The answer is no. Right? Like, the answer is just no. And they've been talking about this all week. It's just, they've been talking about it for 2 days since it happened. It's fear and virtue signaling. It's fear and virtue signaling. This estate, and I don't understand it. I mean, maybe they just want their 15 minutes of fame, or maybe somebody in the estate has gone super woke. But yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I actually don't get it. Most of these books were written in like the 50s, or actually 50s or 60s maybe, but maybe earlier. And they've been around for decades, and Dr. Seuss is just Dr. Seuss. Like were people talking about this? Like, was this a big thing? It just seems so random, and I mean, which is like, this wasn't a discussion. Like, I don't ever remember seeing before they came out and said they were stopping the publishing of these books. Like, was this a discussion somewhere, like in some smoky basement? Oh man, Dr. Seuss has got to go. Like I don't like. It's virtue signaling, fear and virtue signaling. I don't know. I don't get it. Okay. That's Infowars. Breitbart. Breitbart. See if there's anything on Twitter. Twitter's a dumpster fire. See, anything interesting here? I don't follow as many people on Twitter as I used to, or at least the people I follow on Twitter aren't as prolific as they used to be. A lot of theological infighting. Yeah. I gotta follow some different people on Twitter. Um, um, oh yes. Um, like, okay, so the Chinese are out of their minds. The Communist Chinese Party, or the Chinese Communist Party, is out of their minds. The Chinese want all, what is it? All foreigners who come into the country to get anal swabs for COVID testing. They're what? Like, I don't understand. Like, I get it, but I feel like this is just them humiliating outsiders now. Like, the Chinese, the CCP is just terrible. Um, I mean, I listened to Xi Jinping on the World Economic Forum's Davos thing. I listened to, I think, most of it, and it was absolutely it was insanity. The guy's a total. I mean, he's a communist dictator, so of course the guy's a total slimeball. But while I was listening to this, knowing that they were rounding up, they've been rallying up the Falun Gong practitioners for years. They've been rounding up the Uyghur Muslims for a while now, and their attacks on Christians have ramped up. And listening to him tell the World Economic Forum that we don't have to be enemies because we believe different things. Like, these guys are the communists. The Chinese are just. They're the bad guys. Like they really are. Anybody who's rounding up, anybody who's rounding up and putting people by the millions in concentration camps, they're the bad guys. And then to go out and talk about how we need to not let differences, in beliefs work, stop us from working together, or stopping us from being allies, is you're a psychopath. He's an absolute psychopath. And then, Beijing Biden coming out and saying that, how they're dealing with the Uyghurs is just because it's a different culture. Really, Joe? Like, okay, rounding people up and re-educating them and having their women raped and the men tortured, and it's just a cultural difference, just a cultural difference. And I'm sure wanting to stick medical swabs up people's butts is just a cultural difference too, huh? Yeah. Yeah, and this is and this tweet, Japan asked China to stop the anal test on its citizens. Oh, they're doing it on its citizens, on Japanese citizens, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right on Japan. Yes, we need to tell the Chinese communists to stop sticking swabs up people's butts. I am 100% with this. But it's I don't even know what to say right now. It's just to sit back and try to just observe the world and try to filter it through a worldview that makes sense. Yeah, through the Christian worldview, the worldview that makes sense, where where God is creator and things exist in the way they are for a reason, and you can't change them just because you want them to be different, or and how the laws of logic exist because God is logical, And then you stop and you look at some of this stuff, and it's like, oh, well, we are in upside down world, and we're not an upside down world. We're in a shaking. Things had gotten. I mean, let's face it. Things had kind of gotten boring. Um, I mean, they had kind of gotten boring. 2020 2020 was a wake up call. It really was. 2020 was a wake up call. The last 4 years have been a wake up call. And we need to adjust, and we can't go back. Like we can't go back, and we shouldn't want to go back. We don't want to go back to the 1950s. We don't want to go back to the 1990s, even though I still love the 90s. But it's a wake up call. We can't go back. And we have to. There has been a paradigm shift. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I've been, and I sort of. I don't talk about, I have feeling, I have, XYZ feeling a lot or whatever, other than, happy, sad. But before Christmas and around Christmas, and this is where I had started to really think about this and kind of notice this, and I had posted on my Facebook that everything felt quiet. And I'm not sure how to explain that any more than that. Everything felt quiet, kind of like on a Missouri Saturday afternoon, and it's bright and sunny, and it's calm, but over on the horizon, you could see it coming. That monster storm, and it might last for 20 minutes, it might last for an hour, you never know. Might take, might end up in the basement or whatever, but there was that calm, that quiet. The wind was a little different, it was 90 degrees out, but there was maybe that hint of coolness in the air. And, there was that calm, and then the storm hits, and then you've got to ride out the storm. I'm not prophesying anything. I'm just sort of telling you what I'm thinking based on what I've observed. And I'm not saying I'm the best observer ever, but like I said at the beginning, we're in a reality war, and we're in a paradigm shift. We really are. I don't know what the end is going to look like exactly. I know I've spent hours listening to some of these elites talking and listening to these elites and reading their documents, and they're all out there. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is what they're openly and proudly saying that they want to do. And it's a paradigm shift. And if we keep trying to hang on to the old paradigm, we're going to be scrambling to catch up. We need to be looking beyond this we need to be, as Christians, so I don't hold to the common, especially the common American view of the end. I don't believe, the clock's ticking down. I mean, the clock's ticking down. Of course the clock's ticking down. Jesus is going to come back. It's ticking towards that. History's going someplace, and it's towards Jesus. But, so I'm not going, this is the end of the world. And so I'm saying this, so I can say something else here in a minute. I don't believe this is the end of the world. I believe that we possibly have hundreds, if not thousands of years left of history. I believe that all of Jesus' enemies will be put under his feet. I believe that all of the nations will be discipled and baptized. I believe all the nations will stream up to the mountain of the Lord, like it says in Isaiah, Ezekiel 42. The river coming out from under the temple spreads out to where it's a river so wide no man can cross. There's numerous places to look, but I believe that the overall arc of history is a good one. It's a positive one. The cross was the lowest point in history. We're just going up from there. I know it doesn't seem like it sometimes. When you're down in a valley, it doesn't look like it's going up. But I say that to say this. I believe we are in a paradigm shift. And as much as we need to fight the battles, however we fight them, whether that's just raising children, taking them to church, trying to raise them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, or and going to work and just trying to do the best we can for our family in a godly way, or whether it's starting movie production companies that don't buy into the woke crowd, or starting cancel proof companies doing whatever, or running for office, or doing blogs, or whatever, however we're fighting the battles that are in front of us. Our opponents have been playing the long game. Our opponents have been playing the long game for a century. Some of the stuff that they're saying that they want to happen, and they've been saying they've been wanting to happen, they've been saying it for decades, since like the 60s. There's this Bond villain out there. Well, I call him a Bond villain. He's the head of the World Economic Forum. Dude's named Klaus Schwab. He looks, talks, and kind of acts like a Bond villain. He's been talking about what they're trying to work on now, this Great Reset, he's been talking about since the 60s. So they're playing a 40 or 50 year game. We need to look beyond this. We need to fight the battles that are in front of us, but then we need to be looking forward. We need to get in front of them. We need to get in front of this. I don't know how. I don't have that answer right now. I may never have that answer. But, look at Marcus Pittman from Apologia Church, starting a new working on starting a new streaming company called Lore. That's fighting a battle now. I don't know if that's fighting. I don't know if that's building. I don't know if that's fighting the battle 100 years from now. Of course, we don't know what those battles are. God's in charge. God's already there. But our enemies are planning 50 and 100 years in advance. We have all the time in the world. We have eternity on our side. We need to be planning 500 years in advance. The old cathedrals took hundreds of years to build. There's I don't know if it's true, the tale of the Guinness, the beer factory guy. Apparently he signed a 500-year lease for his brewing company. We've stopped thinking, the Western church has stopped thinking past next week, next year, maybe even. Do we even think that far? Are we thinking about, am I going to build something today? Am I going to try to build something today? Proverbs says, the wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. There are Christians that don't want to have children because they don't think they're going to be around long enough. Why polish brass on the Titanic? And I think that attitude has partly left us where we're at. So So yeah, I mean that's my thing. That's I've been thinking that's been something that's been on my mind for expect the last several months. We need to be thinking even longer term than they are. They're thinking 12 years out, it's all going to end, right? 12 years till a climate disaster, right? They've got their own, um, these globalists and these secularist. I'm gonna wrap this up. My tongue's getting tired. They've got their own prophets of doom. They've got their own eschatology. They've got their own prophets of doom. They've got their own high priests. It's a religion. But they're telling us we got 12 years. I'm saying we may have 1,200 years, right? So we need to. We need to be thinking like that. We can't, as much as hard as it's going to be, as hard as it is now for many people to think 12 days in the future. Collectively, especially collectively as a church, as the church, we need to be thinking, where are we going? We can't see what's next for sure, other than we know Jesus is winning, right? We know what it looks like today. We don't know what it's going to look like tomorrow. But we know God's already there. And if we're doing what we're doing, if we're planning, if we're planning 1,200 years in advance, He's already there too. And if it's of God, it'll stand, and if it's not, then it'll fail. And we'll keep going. So, I mean, and this is probably something I'll talk about again. This has been something that's sort of been on my mind, even though I have no closer to any answers at this point about what that looks like. What does it look like to plan 1,200 years in advance? What does it look like to plan 100 years or in advance? To push an agenda, building an institution that you want. I mean, and the church is going to stand. The church is going to stand forever. You're not going to get rid of it. If all the atomic bombs blew up yesterday and there were 8 people left, 6 of them would be Christians, right? We got the Noah story. I had a pastor, he'd say, if there were 2 people left, one of them would be Christian. No, if there were just 2 people left, they would both be Christian. I fully believe that. But anyway, and I'm not just, we are this, how are we going to steward the planet as the church, proclaiming the gospel, and push that agenda, stewarding the earth, proclaiming the gospel, loving our neighbor, building, leaving wealth and such for over an agenda of 100 years or 200 years or 500 years through persecution, possibly through tons of persecution. I mean, the Chinese church is going through tons of persecution right now. The African church, the Middle Eastern church. How do you do that? Like, can you do that? Can we do that? As much as we need to just, sit and trust God fully for these things, right, like knowing that he already knows what happens. God's already there. He's already got this all mapped out. We don't know. We're looking at the back end of this. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we can't do it. Maybe maybe I'm tilting at windmills. To even think about it, I'm, trying to I don't know.
I'm not trying to grab the wisdom.
Or maybe not. I know there's a lot of people out there smarter than me. Maybe they've got some ideas. Oh, well, I think that's enough for tonight. Anyway, I think I will actually end. I've been reading 4 Psalms, trying to read 4 Psalms a day, 5 Psalms a day, trying to read the Psalms, pray the Psalms. I really didn't give up anything for Lent, but this was sort of my, after listening to several sermons, I sort of felt that this was something I needed to do in lieu of necessarily, giving up Facebook or giving up something for Lent. I was going to resolve read 4 Psalms a night. So where am I now? Psalm 55. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and do not hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me and hear me. I am restless in my complaint and moan noisily because of the voices of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they bring down trouble upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is severely pained within me, and the terror of death hath fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling have come upon me, and horror has overwhelmed me. So I said, Oh, that I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Indeed, I would wander far off, and remain in the wilderness. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go around it on its walls. Iniquity and trouble are also in the midst of it. Destruction is in the midst. Oppression and deceit do not depart from its streets. For it is not an enemy who reproaches me, then I could bear it, nor is it one who hates me who has exalted himself against me, then I could hide from him. But it was you, a man of my equal, my companion and my acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked to the house of God in the throng. Let death seize them, let them go down alive into hell, for wickedness is in their dwelling, and among them. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon, I will pray and cry aloud. He shall hear my voice. He has redeemed my soul in peace from the battle that was against me. For there were many against me. God will hear and afflict them, even he who abides from the old. Even he abides from old. Anyway, because they do not change, therefore they do not fear God. He has put forth his hand against those who were at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved. But you, O God, shall bring them down to the pit of destruction. Bloodthirsty and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in you. Good psalm. Psalm 55 in KJV. Good night. We'll see if we can do this again soon. Maybe I'll actually have something planned. Maybe not. We'll see.